back to Panic Button Podcast, where we talk about mental health, how we get through it, why we get through it, all the fun stuff. You guys know the drill by this point. But yeah, life kind of threw a turn at me this morning. I woke up with like a super inflamed eye and just like had a cyst and like an infection going on. Felt like I couldn't see. So actually, I stayed in bed for a couple extra hours hoping it would go away. But then I'm like, okay, it's not. I need to go to the doctor. And me and doctors do not get along very well. Obviously, I have anxiety. So I'm just like, ugh, this is the worst. But I just feel like, I think I mentioned this before to you guys, life is just really testing me lately. And I don't know if you guys have been in a similar boat recently, if it's the season or what. But, my basement flooded a couple days ago because of a rainstorm that we had. Now I got this issue with my eye. And it's tough because I know mentally I'm in such a better place than I was months ago. So it's just kind of like all the outside environment factors are like testing me to be like, oh, well, let's really test how good your mental health is and how we could throw all these things at you and how you deal with them. But, on the positive side, I do have an amazing support system that you guys know. So I guess just we got to keep on pushing through it. Hopefully there's no more rain coming. Hopefully the sty goes away. And yeah, hopefully we keep on pushing forward. Days keep getting better instead of worse. And I'd really just like a quiet break. So if the environment or whoever's out there that's listening could help me and just like have things go in my favor for a little bit, I would appreciate it. Because mental health is not easy to manage when there's outside factors going on that could really throw you off your rocker. But yeah, so jumping into it, we do have another special guest today, Sammy Scholes. She is a wife, mother, stepmom. She's sober now. She's a domestic violence survivor. She battles PTSD, and she's also a podcast host herself of the Healing Diaries. Sammy, are you here with us?
I am. Hello.
Hi, nice to have you on here. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thank you for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone is going to ask because we can obviously hear you have an accent. Where are you from?
So I live in a place called Wigan, which is it's right in between Manchester and Liverpool in the UK.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Obviously, they'll know
Northwest.
you're not from Illinois. Happy to have you on here and
I'm
excited to hear a
excited.
little bit more about your story. What does your mental health journey look like? Like, what are you here to share with us?
Right, so do you want me to go right back to the beginning? I was starting as a child and then
You can
working
start
on.
wherever you want. We're here
Right.
for it. I'm listening.
Right, so this all began for me when I was 13. So at 13, something happened that flicked a switch, and I'll always say, ever since that day, I've never been the same person. So going back a little bit further to that, I was 9 and my mum died. So it was right out the blue. Didn't expect it. She wasn't ill. I was sat down at 9 and told my mum had passed away. Before that, me and my mum, we lived together on our own. She was like everything. She did everything for me. She was an amazing single parent. We had a really good relationship. And everything was good. Like, there was problems in your childhood, but that's just family life. It was never anything out the ordinary or anything. It was just a normal family. So my mum passed away, and obviously we grieved. We had the funeral. Life got back to normal. It was hard, but I think as a child you process things differently. Like, I was just that young and kind of didn't know what was going on. I just went for the ride, just got on with it day by day, and life just came back. So things carried on. I went back to school. I was living with my dad at this point. Just trying to grow up as a teenager. And then on this day that I was talking about when I was 13, I was in my grandma and granddad's house, and I was doing school homework. So we were learning about acids in science, and I was rooting around the house looking for different things to add to this list. And I found a letter, like a brown envelope, and it had my name on. Never seen this letter before. I was like, that's strange. And something's addressed to you, like you've normally seen it. So I pulled it from the bottom of the drawer, and it had been opened. But obviously it wasn't by me. So I opened it, took the paper out that was inside, and it was a suicide note. So I'd been told my mum had passed away, and I was never given a reason as to why. But it turns out my mum had committed suicide. So I went hot, sweaty, dizzy. Head was like a muff. All my ears went muffled. It was like a panic onset of a panic attack. I felt sick, so the room was spinning. I ran downstairs straight out the front door, and I collapsed in the garden. And my gran came out, and she was like, "Is everything okay?" And she saw it in my hand, and like was obviously realised I'd worked it out what had gone on. So she took me in, sat me down, and that day changed my life. I was never the same person after. Like I dealt with the death, and I processed it. I'd accepted it. It was hard. I was grieving, but to know that not only had my mum taken her own life, and I couldn't understand why, to find out that I was the only person that didn't know that was what she'd done was really difficult. And I blamed myself then that they hadn't told me, because it was because of me. So I was just beating myself up, angry. I hated everybody because they'd all lied to me. Like, this is obviously how I saw it at the time.
Sure.
I had so many questions, but the only person that could give me the answers wasn't here. The letter, I've read it out on one of my podcast episodes. It says, like, it wasn't your fault. I had a battle for 36 years that I couldn't continue. I didn't want to do 36 more. Just make sure the right people look after you. Just know that I loved you. It was all like the things that you probably would take from it is it's not my fault. But all I kept thinking about is, why did they hide it from me? So at the time, I didn't understand, and I hated everyone. I was fighting, I was binge drinking, I weren't going to school, I was getting into trouble. Like I just turned from a normal child to an absolute menace overnight, and it was just difficult, and I was horrendous, I was horrible, and like people say, well, you had good reason, but I suppose in one sense you could look at it that I did, but in the other sense I dealt with it completely wrong. But obviously in them moments at that age, you don't really know, how to deal with things.
Sure.
So I couldn't get my head around it. But what played on my mind more as well as the time was going on, I'd been bullied. Like, I wouldn't say bullied, but I've been taking the mick out of a little bit, like people giving little sly comments behind your back. I wouldn't necessarily it wasn't bullying, but it was just kids being kids, passing comments, and they'd be saying, "Oh, like your mum's not here," like, and then a girl drew a picture of someone hanging and put it in like what you have as like lockers in America. We had like like a tray, and she put it in my thing. So I didn't understand what all this meant at the time, but then all that then began to make sense, because all their mums and dads would have known, but obviously the kids hear things, so then they were saying things to me, but I wasn't aware of what the meaning behind it was. So then I was like, everybody knew, but I didn't. Like, even the kids at school knew, because they was taking the mick, and so I just couldn't process it. That's when my relationship with alcohol began. Obviously I was drinking bottles and bottles of vodka, bottles of rum, anything I could get my hands on, I was drinking it. I was getting into fights. I was fighting with my friends, like, like my actual friends, like getting into states. My grandma was getting phone calls at work saying, "Your Sam's at it again." It become a regular thing that people were just expecting. And yeah, from then to 16, I just battled against everybody. I was a very big victim, like feeling very sorry for myself. Like I used it as an excuse to get away with things. I was I was just I was a mess. Let's just say that I was a broken mess, and I think that then began my mental health journey, in a sense of I didn't know where to go because I didn't know how to recover from it. I battled with my dad. I gave my dad a really hard time. Um, like I said, getting into trouble. I had the police like knocking at the door and just all sorts of different things, and things just went really bad. So on my 16th birthday, I said to my dad, "Right, I'm 16 now. I'm going. I'm never coming back." And he thought, I don't know if he took me seriously or if he thought I was joking, but I left on my 16th birthday and I never went home. I went living with my grandma. Things started getting a little bit better as I left school. I started, because I had to go. I didn't go to college or anything. I just got a job. Things started picking up. But I was still drinking, and it was turning into the point where I was drinking all night and going to work in the morning straight from drinking, which is one, no good for your mental health, and two, it's just not right. You should that's the sign of a problem straight away for me. You're prioritizing your night out before anything else in your life. And then I carried on, snowballed with the drinking. That got to a problem, but I didn't acknowledge it. And then I met my kid's dad when I was 17, which in the beginning it was amazing. He walked into my life and he was everything. He was it was what you call love bombing when you get to the point where I am. But yeah, he was everything. He just came out of nowhere and swept me off my feet. So we were together for 3 months, and then we got engaged. We were together 6 months, and we got pregnant with our first daughter. So by the time I was 18, I was pregnant. Things happened very, very fast, very, very quickly. Again, the relationship was based on alcohol. That's what we used to do together. We like our time together was drinking. It was toxic, but it was nothing bad in the beginning. It was just we were unhealthy for each other. He'd had his problems with drink, and he'd nearly died in an accident, and he'd had trauma as well. And then obviously I'd been through all this with my mum. So we met, and we were no good for each other. The signs were there, but I think we were trying to prove to everybody that they were wrong. So we pushed and pushed and pushed, and then we had our first daughter in the November of 2009. So I just turned 19 at this point, and we had our first daughter, and then from, I'd say, the January after, so he'd been arrested for assault and he had to go to court in the January, and he didn't go to jail. So after that, things turned very, very bad very, very quickly. So there was other women, numerous affairs. He was always out. He'd go out and he wouldn't come home. So things were just not right. And then one weekend I found out about another woman. We'd only been married. I think we got married and it was about 3 months after. And I found out about another woman, and he came back to my house, kicked the front door in, attacked me, punched me, gave me my first black eye. And the police came, police dogs were there, helicopter was there. Oh, it was horrendous, and I thought, no, he'll never do it to me again. Took him back. Straight away he was apologising. And from then on, it got worse and worse and worse. I was being kicked in the ribs. I was punched. I was kicked in the face with boots on. I was mentally abused, like unbelievably. He was calling me names. He'd call me fat. He'd call me vile. It was just awful. There was always other women. he'd be, you know, going out doing whatever he wanted, but I never had anything to do. I'd have to stay at home with the kids. And then one time, like, there was a time where he held me under the water in the bath, constantly telling me he'd kill me. So I think I tried to commit suicide on, it was an August bank, I think it was August bank holiday in 2017. And I sat at my mum's grave and I took a load of painkillers, a load of sleeping tablets. And I thought, this is it. I can't do this anymore. My daughter's better off if I'm not here, because if I'm not here, he's not beating me up, you know. So she's not going to have to see that. I'm not going to have to lie anymore. And that night I ended up in hospital on a load of drips. They said I weren't out the woods when I got there. There was still a chance that I couldn't make it. And I got put through a mental health team. And at that point, when I was in hospital, that's when I thought, this isn't, I'm either going to die by him killing me killing myself, or me drinking myself to death, because one of these options are the only way out for me. And I just thought, this isn't a life. And I came home and I read my mum's notes. Sorry, I'm not going to get upset. I came home and I read my mum's notes, and I just thought, she said in that letter, I've had 36 years and I don't want another 36 like it. And I thought, why am I letting my life go the same way? She said, you know, don't do the same as me. And I was just like, I'm just wasting away here. Like, you know, my life's just not, I was just existing. I wasn't living. I was just there as a mum and a punch bag, basically, and someone to take all the crap from him, you know. And I went home and I thought, right, this is it. I'm going to make the change. Within 48 hours, he was back. We were happy again, you know. Everything had brushed over. And everything will be fine. So the police turned up at my house and said, we know you're lying. We know it was him. We, like, you know, you've got a choice now. You need to tell us, or we're going to get social services involved. Do you have social services in America? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they came round and they said, well, it's your choice now. It's either him or the kids.
Right.
So I said, well, obviously it's my kids. So I had to sign a form to say I wouldn't take him back. And long time after, like, we were just still seeing each other and stuff, but the social ended up coming back out and they said, right, we've risk assessed, everything seems okay. But I was just lying, because I was so lost in my mind that I couldn't be without him. Like, I had no purpose without him, because he was that in my head saying, nobody else will want you, you're nothing without me, you know.
Yeah, very manipulating towards you.
Yeah. And I was so scared and I lost myself and I put on a lot of weight, and like, I was so unhappy, but I didn't know what else to do. So after the suicide attempt and the police involvement and the social workers, I was assigned to a mental health team because I tried to take my life. They was asking me about my drinking, and I was like, I only have a bottle of wine when I go out. It was just all lies. All of it was lies. And then I was given like a support worker, so she come out and they diagnosed me with bipolar. Now, I don't think I've got bipolar. I think I had the PTSD, so the post-traumatic stress disorder, but I don't think I knew I had it. So I think I was showing signs of certain other mental health illnesses, but I don't think, because I wasn't being true about my answers, I think I was misdiagnosed.
Right.
So I was having the manic and depressive episodes, but I think it was when things were triggered and not triggered through the post-traumatic stress. So I was given medication and they made me feel like I was spaced out, you know. They might work for some people, but I think I didn't have the illness that they were supposed to be working on. So I felt drugged up. I was, again, lazy, not getting out of bed. I weren't going to work. I was on the floor and I was just existing, but all I lived for was the drink. So I had the kids. The kids were ticking by. The kids were never affected. They were going to school. They were well looked after. They were doing days out, we were going on holidays. But in my mind, I was so sad, so lonely. Like, I, I just thought, surely there's got to be more than this. And yeah, I think things just got from bad to worse, and the abuse got worse, and it was more accepted. Like, I knew the signs, so I'd get a certain message or a certain look, and I knew what was coming. And it's hard. It shouldn't be that predictable, to know when something like that's going to happen. So then we went into lockdown. COVID hit, and we went into lockdown. So then we were under the microscope then. So we were together all the time. Like, what had happened is, when he blacked my eye or when he bruised me or anything, we'd go away to a cabin with the kids. So we'd go away, so my face would heal and no one would see me. So nobody knew it was going on. So when coronavirus hit and we were locked down, you couldn't do that. So he had to behave himself, because one, the kids were here, so the kids would hear whatever he was saying. Two, he couldn't go missing because he couldn't go out and be social with anybody. And three, he couldn't hit me, because if he did, family was FaceTiming, doing group FaceTimes and stuff, so he'd have been caught out. So when coronavirus happened, it was the thing for me that got me stronger. So I was getting paid from work and I was saving it up to to sort everything out for when the lockdown was lifted. And that's when we split up. We split up in the October. He went back to work, and in October 2020, and I said to him on the Monday morning, I can't do this, me, no more. I'm not strong enough. And yeah, he's never been home since. So we're now 3.5 years down the line of being separated. I filed for divorce on the grounds of domestic violence and adultery because of the affairs. The divorce went through absolutely fine, no issues, because obviously I had the evidence of photos, messages. I had all the evidence and stuff. So that went through. So that was a positive. And then all of a sudden, I felt this, like, I felt like a kick in my stomach. It was like, I thought leaving that relationship, my life would be perfect. I'd be away and I'd be happy, and everything that was going wrong had gone. I couldn't have been any more wronger. Like, that was the furthest thing from the truth. Then, when I left the relationship, everything got worse, because the freedom was there, which was a positive, but then it's the memories, the abuse. So I was in my own head, like, I couldn't understand that wasn't normal. So the recovery process for me was so difficult. I couldn't understand. I just couldn't. I'd known it since I was 17. I was 30 years old. So that's, like, all my adult life I'd been in this violent relationship, and it just got harder and harder, and I was drinking more, like, abusing myself. So I'd go on Tinder, to the dating app, to meet somebody just for the sake of it. So I weren't only abusing myself in the drink, I was abusing myself in allowing myself to be in certain positions which I would never have ever put myself in before. And I was looking for comfort in all the wrong places. And I can't, like, this is a part what I've posted about on my Instagram, and I've spoke about on my episodes. There is no pre-warning to domestic violence victims or survivors or anybody who suffers any form of abuse, of what the memories do to you. So now I hear a certain song, smell a certain food, see a certain picture, and I'm right back in that moment. And I go into panic and I have panic attacks, and I just switch. There's no pre-warning. It doesn't come on. It comes very, very rapid. And so I was like, what? I may as well still be in the relationship. It was as easy getting punched in the face as it is trying to get my life back. So I had my kids on my own. He was living his best life out all the time, not bothered. He was on to his next girlfriend at the, like. So I was sat here with all this, the money worries, the house, the kids, all these memories that he put me through. And I thought, I'm still in the mess I was in before. So yeah, I had to work on myself and put myself through courses with the police, like a freedom program of how to get back to normal life. I went through 2 courses of CBT therapy. I wasn't ready. I was on strong antidepressant. I was on 3 anti-anxiety tablets a day. Going through all these different motions, and I just wasn't getting any better because all I was doing was fueling myself with drink and living for the weekend. So I was broke still, and then I met my husband. My husband, who, like, he is the best thing that ever happened to me, and like, bar my kids, obviously. He saved me when I didn't even realise at the time I needed saving. I met him, and my life just changed. And it wasn't. I didn't change it for him. He came in, and obviously he was he was just there at the right time, you know.
Yep.
I was so skeptical at first. Like, we kept saying, I'm not jumping into anything, I've just come out with something. And this was like nearly a year after we'd split up. And he he stuck by me, and I pushed him away. And I'd say to him on a weekend, right, I'm not happy, I'm not happy. And I'd cause an argument with him so I could have a drink. And because obviously he was saying to me, it's no good for your mental health, so it's no good for your mental health. And I wasn't listening to him, and I'd premeditate it. I'd be like, I know that I can't do this now because the drink was prioritised over everything. So I I'm very, very surprised that he stuck by me, but I'm also very, very lucky and very grateful that he did. And he doesn't realise, I don't think now, how much it's been down to him that I sorted myself out, because I think if he would have given up on me, I'd have just gone straight back down that slope, you know.
Sure.
But they say, don't they, sometimes someone said that you get sent these people or sent these signs, and he's definitely that person. Um, and yeah, I was with him, and we got married, and obviously, and now I've got a stepdaughter, and things still wasn't great. I was still not in our relationship was, but me mentally, I'd have my down days, and I'd have days where I kicked off, and then the drink was still coming into it, and not as much, but it was still there. I still wasn't right. And then I put myself through CBT again, and I did the full course. And I'd been through 2 courses prior, which I'd quit halfway through because I just weren't ready. I was like, it's not benefiting me, I'm not bothered. Went through that. Then I did a therapy called EMDR therapy,
Sure.
which
Yeah, I've heard of that.
is where they reprogram the trauma memories, which was the most amazing thing I have ever done. Like, I've said to anyone who's been through trauma, like, that changed my mentality completely. Then I started going sober because I was having a lot of stomach problems, so I was removing certain things to see was that what was causing me the pain. So I went sober for a bit. We went on a holiday. I did the holiday sober, which was like a big deal for me. I'd never done that before. Come back, started slipping again, where the drink had come back in, and then I'd just take it to extreme. I wouldn't drink all week, so I'll get onto the problem with the alcohol in a minute, but I'd binge, and I don't know my limit, so I'd drank 2 bottles of Prosecco by the time somebody had drank a glass. It just
Right.
wasn't normal. I weren't drinking to socialise, I was drinking to get drunk and as fast as possible. It's like, and then I black out, so I'd have times where I'd come home and I'd be in the house asleep, still with my clothes on from last night, and my bag would be in the garden. And I was like, how have you not been mugged or killed or ran over, or, you know, how have you not been seriously hurt? Because I couldn't remember any of it. And like, I was that wasted that I'd left like my bag with my money, my phone, everything in outside. But I'd just go. And so I started thinking, this is really affecting me. And then there was a pattern forming, which my husband kind of said, it's every time you have a drink, then you're having panic attacks, then you're depressed, then you're down, and then you, like, I got lazy, so I'd be all right Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, after a drinking session on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm not getting out of bed, I'm not going to work, I'm not doing this. So it was affecting my life. And over the years I've lost a lot of friendships because of what I've done when I've been drunk, what I've done when I've been in the previous relationship. So I started thinking, if I better myself, I'm going through all this therapy and stuff, I need to commit properly. So there's a podcast in the UK called Menace to Sobriety, which is a comedian called Dapper Laughs. And there was a clip on TikTok and it went viral. And a lot of people didn't agree with what he said, but it really hit me. And he said, if your mental health is through the floor and you think you need help, are you still drinking? If the answer's yeah, stop and see if your mental health's still through the floor. And then he says, if it is, are you exercising? If the answer's yeah, then you need to seek help. But if the answer's no, maybe stop and see. So I thought he might have a point here, because all these things I weren't doing. I was just expecting miracles to come from therapy. So I stopped drinking, started exercising, started eating a bit better. I weren't exercising to the extreme. That's a new thing that's come that I've started this past week. But I was getting out more, walking a little bit, not sitting in the house because I was waiting for the bottle of wine to be opened. I was getting out and doing days out with my kids and just being more productive with my time because I'd stopped drinking. And in the first few weeks, I felt incredible, like I was on top of the world. And then obviously the reality sinks in that that's it now, you're not drinking anymore. And I think you start being triggered then, by certain things that happen. Like if you do feel down, you're like, the bottle would be my best friend. So that's when I think 4 to 8 weeks you're on a high and you're in a little sober bubble, and then it gets hard then that, right, this Christmas is happening, so everyone's going to be drunk, you're not. And then what you're going to say to them about why you're not drunk? Are you going to say you're an alcoholic? Are you an alcoholic? Are you not an alcoholic? So in the early stage I was like, I've not got a problem, but I just don't like, so, but now I am an alcoholic. I know full well I'm an alcoholic because I was never a breakfast alcoholic. I was never a park bench alcoholic. I was very much a social drinker, but I could not moderate my usage, and I was doing it for the wrong reasons. So I'd effectively like make plans, and I'd base it around the alcohol consumption. So if there was none, I wouldn't go. If there was some, I'd get a taxi and I'd have
Right.
drank the wine before I'd even got there. So I was making, so I know I'm an alcoholic, and my friends keep saying to me, now you're not, you just had some stress. And said, but if you drink because you're stressed, that's not right. I know some people do and they can moderate it, and that's fine. I couldn't. I'd black out
Right.
and I'd not be the same person. So I'm on no antidepressant, no anti-anxiety tablets, and I am on half the dose of the antidepressant. So obviously you've got to come off them slowly. But I was 5 months sober last weekend, and within 5 months I'm losing weight, I'm active, I've got a better mental health. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. I still have the days where I'm triggered and I'm battling, but I'm
I'm sure.
dealing with them, not burying them. So I'm actually hitting them, head on.
Yeah.
And I've reduced the anti-anxiety tablets to none. I've still got some in case I need them, but I haven't had to take them. And the antidepressants have halved. And that's all just by going sober, getting out more, clearing my head, and facing my
Yeah.
problems rather than running away from them. So sorry if I've waffled, but that's my mental health story.
No, no, not at all. You have a story that deserves to be told, and I'm honored to give you the platform to do so because it's not talked about enough what you've gone through.
Yeah,
Whether you're in no matter where you are in the world, we've all can relate to something someone has gone through. And I
yeah,
know someone will resonate with your story, and it's huge, because you and I, when we first started connecting, I had told you that my dad passed away.
yeah,
But my dad passed away 2 years ago when I was an adult. So we had
yeah,
talked about, how there's value in sharing different sides of grief
yeah, of
because
course.
it's like you like you said before, you had dealt with the passing of your mom because that's what you were told had happened.
Yeah,
But then
yeah,
when you had found out that she had taken her life, that was a different type of grief as well. That was a lot of
Yeah.
anger, you said.
Like I said to you when we spoke previously, I believe that I had, like, not, it sounds really nasty when I say it, and I don't mean it how it comes across. My mum died, and I moved on because I was a child. That's what you do. It's natural. Like, I, I, I couldn't miss what I couldn't remember.
Right.
So I was so young, and your memory, I do have memories, but they're very vivid because back then there was no technology, so there was no, like, the videos are really poor quality or no sound, or there's not a lot to look back on. I've got the odd picture. A lot of them I did rip up and burn when I found out she committed suicide, which I regret massively. Because I hated her for a while, because I was like, how could you? Because now you've done this to me, and living
Right.
like with a victim mentality, like I said. But I processed the death when I knew she'd passed, and because kids are so adaptive, like they just get on with it. They don't know anything else.
Yeah.
They're told something, and then they're on to the next, and they move. And I think if I hadn't have found out my mum had committed suicide, maybe if I was told at the time she'd passed, I could have processed it from the beginning. And
Right.
that would, I think it was because I'd processed it. I was going really, really well in the grieving process. Life was getting back to normal, and then I was hit with a curveball, and it was just, I don't know if it was an excuse to feel sorry for myself or if it was genuine anger, but I went through it all. I hated her. I burnt pictures of her. I went to a grave, and I was like graffitiing it. I was horrible. I was horrendous, but I was so angry. and and then I went through a stage where I felt dead sad about it, because I was like, how she must have felt in that moment. Why was she on her own? Why did no one care that she was depressed? And I was battling through all of it, and then I went through a numb stage, like, I don't even care about her. She left me. I'm not bothered. And then now I'm at a stage where I'm a mum myself. I've had my life battles with mental health. I completely understand why she did it. I don't agree with what she did, but
Right.
I've felt that down and depressed and lonely myself, where I think in that split second, that's her choice. That was the choice she chose, and that doesn't make her a bad person, a coward. It
Right.
makes her, that was her journey, and that's, like, obviously I would never ever wish it on anyone, but when somebody's in that moment, I felt it myself.
Yeah.
Nobody would have stopped me. So now I think I'm getting to the point where I can speak openly about it. I would not have had this conversation with you 12 months ago, because especially when I was in mid drink, I couldn't deal with it. But now I'm I'm okay. Like, I'm at peace with the fact that there's nothing I can do. It's done. It's been nearly 25 years, and she did what she thought was right for herself in that moment. And I wish she hadn't. Don't get me wrong. I wish she was here, and if I could get to spend another day with her, I'd bring her back right now. But it's it, she wasn't okay.
Right.
And I can't be angry with her for that, because we'll all go through that. It's just a shame. And 24 years ago, mental health wasn't spoke about. There was a stigma, and I've researched it since all this has happened, and it was called committing suicide back then, like it was a crime, and it was very stigmatized. And my grandma got a lot of backlash from it, and it was in the front page of the local paper, and it was a big deal back then. But now they say death by suicide, because it's not classed as a crime, because it's openly spoke about. And I think I think the stigma's being removed, and people aren't ashamed to talk anymore. Um, and especially the suicide rate is shocking. It's awful, and it breaks my heart. There's so many people battling, and you just think, if I could just help one person by talking about what I'm talking about, I'm I'm helping somebody. And I look now as my traumas, as I experience those negatives, to share them as a positive. So I want people to listen to my negatives, and then say a woman gets into an abusive relationship and she might listen to something I say and think, no, I'm not putting up with that, you know? And I just want my experiences to, like, I didn't go through all that negative for nothing. I've done it to
Right.
now share the positives and hopefully make a difference. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a podcast of yourself,
Yeah.
and it's the Healing Diaries. So, what do you discuss on there? Just kind of like a brief.
Yeah, so it's a bit of like, I want to speak to people from all walks of life, from all over the world, like yourself, and speak to people about different things. So it's just how people heal in different situations, whether it be grief, abuse, addiction, failure stories, success stories, how people get to get to these places, because there's so many different people. Like, I've had somebody on who had an addiction and he's a successful businessman. So, like, you when you think of an addict, you think of someone begging on a street corner or someone that's homeless, but they're not. There's some addicts that are wealthy businessmen, and you could be another businessman who's thinking, oh, hang on a minute, I hadn't thought that I was an addict, but I am, and I want it to be that we look at people from all different walks of life, whether they're rich, whether they're like, they've been on benefits all their life, or no matter who you are, your
Yep.
story still matters. Like, and everybody, like, whether you're a billionaire or not, you'll still go through things, and it's how different people heal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why you and I kind of have had good conversations, just because we want to be still giving people the opportunity to share these stories, open up a safe place to do so. Because, like you said, even different walks of life, if someone doesn't look like they've gone through something just from the outside looking in, giving them the opportunity to share those stories because they might not have been able to do so.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
always the
it.
easiest to do that either.
But I've had it said to me, like, people said to me before, like, say I've met someone, and like, through my husband, for example, and they don't know anything about me, they don't know who I am, and then I've began speaking to them, and then, like, say I've met them again, and then they find out things like about my mum or about me being from this, like, domestic violence relationship, and they go, oh my god, I would never have guessed,
Right.
so it's like, I've got a story, like, I feel like I've rambled on this podcast about everything that's negative, but if you met me normally, if you meet me normally, it's not something that I share. Like, I'm trying to share it a little bit more now, and that's why I was so grateful to speak to you, because I do want to share my story, but I don't want people to take from this that I'm here claiming victim, because that's not what I want to do,
Right.
But I don't speak about things, and I don't tell people, and people say, oh, I would never have expected you to, like, have gone through all that, but I take that as a massive compliment, because that shows I'm healing, right? And
Yeah,
I yeah,
absolutely.
but
You've
I want to pay it forward now, and like yourself, like, I want to give people a platform to speak, and if somebody can listen to it, and even if it is just one person, and they take one little bit away from it, then we're doing some good, aren't we? And
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
what it's all about.
yeah,
Just kind of like, as you were speaking, I thought of some things, just obviously not from the same location. So I guess for me, kids these days, they're able to seek a lot of resources at this point,
yeah,
where life is at, what kids deal with. It's a little bit more different than when we were growing up.
yeah.
I guess my question to you is, do you think if you had gotten like the proper help or support when you were younger dealing with this, that things would have turned out a little bit different from like a
So
mental health stance? You know what I mean?
yeah, I've thought about this before. No, because I think if it would have been from day one, if they'd have sat me down and said, listen, your mum has done this, and I know I was only young, but even social services said they should have told me from the beginning, because you're always going to believe that you're being lied to. So I don't. I think if I would have been told from the beginning, then maybe I wouldn't have taken that path because I'd have dealt with it. But I think from that day, like I said, I was never the same person, and I
Right.
tried to do therapy twice in the past 2 years, and I couldn't do it. So I think I was that. I was victimizing myself. I was like, "You've all done this." I don't think I wanted the help. I think I
Sure.
wanted to play the victim because in
Sometimes it's
that,
easier, to be
yeah,
honest.
because I was burying my head in the sand and I was like, everybody feels sorry for me. And look, now I've got an excuse to go off the rails and ruin my life, you know. And being very, very truthful, I don't think I would have took the help. I think I wanted to be the train wreck that I was at the time because it was the easiest solution.
Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from with that. It's very hard when you do battle any type of trauma or mental illness or anything that really alters your mental state to almost accept it. And
Yeah,
at such a young age, you were probably like, this is it. Like,
yeah,
why would I get help? I don't need help. I'm fine. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, we're
yeah.
stubborn little kids. Like, as adults, we're like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
I
it.
should have listened a little bit to somebody, but,
But
you figured it out. Like, you
yeah,
did it.
I posted on my Instagram 2 weeks ago on a Friday, like I was so triggered. I'd had a really bad stressful day at work and the kids have been playing up and just one of them days where like not
Sure.
not anything in particular, but
Yep.
you're just a bit bugged and I was I was like, oh my God, I'd love for a glass of wine. And I could feel myself going, yeah, but I'm still a victim. Yeah, but and I was like in my own head, and I was like, stop thinking like that. And
Yeah.
that like I was listening to another podcast, and it says I have got another relapse in me, but I haven't got another recovery in me, and that's where I'm at. So I
That's
feel like I
huge.
could relapse tomorrow because the victim mentality's distilled in me somewhere where I'm not using that anymore. But if one thing happened, I could easily relapse, but I don't think I'd ever recover. I think if I drank again, that'd be it. And
Yeah.
that's terrifying. And it's so much pressure because I don't want to ruin that because I don't want to ever go back down that slope again. It's Mother's Day in the UK tomorrow, and obviously I'm very, very triggered at the minute. Where I've got my girls, my stepdaughter's here. Like I'm going to have a lovely Mother's Day. We've got we're going to make some cakes, go for a walk, do some nice stuff together as a family. But
Sure.
in my head, I'm missing her so much.
Yeah.
And I think having my own kids now and you I see it from the other side and
Yep.
yeah, it's so hard and it's never ever got easier. So I think tonight would have been a night where I'd have gone, right, it's all about me. My head's gone, I can't deal with tomorrow. But I'm not now. I'm looking at the positives. I'm taking my grandma with us and who was my mum's mum. I've got my kids, my stepdaughters here. We're gonna do it all together and I'm gonna channel it as a positive, and give them a good
Yeah.
day and where before I would have really struggled and I would have just hit the bottle just for the sake of, well, it's Mother's Day and my mum's dead. I'd have played on that where now I'm just not in that mentality at all anymore. So it's a good thing and we're learning and this year I'm gonna have a lot of first anniversaries, first Mother's Day, first and it's gonna be hard, but I feel like I'm strong enough now and I've never ever felt that before.
Yeah, that's huge and that's awesome. And, your family and you deserve to have that good day tomorrow. And that's huge. Nothing more
Yeah.
that you can ask for. It's kind of like life went full circle, like you said, and I understand that completely as well. Losing a parent, because no matter how the parent was lost, it's
Yeah.
still losing a parent,
But like
and
I
that's what
said
you
to
and I
you,
agreed with. Go
yeah,
ahead.
to you when we spoke previously, um, that you're probably suffering more than me because yeah, my mum died in a very tragic circumstance, and I was a child. But you've had all that time with your dad. You're going to miss him more than I miss my mum, because I haven't got the memories that you have. So like, my heart goes out to you, because you've got a massive hole there now, haven't you? You know, where for
Yeah.
me it's a small amount of memories that was a long time ago. I just dealt with the aftermath in the wrong way. But there's no right or wrong in a grief situation. But
Sure, sure.
like you said to me, it was like horrible losing your parent as a child. But I don't know how you do it if with all those memories that you'll have. You know, it's so
Yeah,
difficult.
it's definitely tough, you know? It's just kind of like you said, and I think we resonate together in the fact that now we have lost parents and
Yeah,
we are parents ourselves, you know, have a son. What you do now is for them because you
yeah,
see life
everything.
a little differently. You see life a little better almost.
Yeah,
Because, you know, grief is weird, you know, kind of makes things a little foggy and it makes things a little tainted
yeah,
and it's weird, you know, all handle it differently, but my driving force has been my son.
yeah.
Um,
That's it. And I want to make my. I went through life with something missing, and I think that was what the thing was for me, and that was what caused me the problem. I was missing my mum, and I was missing that. I I don't know whether it was because of the circumstance. Something wasn't right. I don't know what it was, but there was something missing in my head. And now with my kids, I want to give them the life that
yeah,
I never got the chance to, and to do things in their childhood. I want them to be kids and not grow up before the time. And you know,
and
my
it's a
eldest
beautiful
daughter,
thing. You know,
yeah,
couldn't do it if you weren't here, so we're all
yeah,
so happy that you're here and you're doing it.
yeah. My eldest daughter's battled with her mental health. She wouldn't mind me saying, I've spoke to her about it. She began self harming when she was 12, down to what happened in the relationship with her dad. And she disclosed things, you know, about what she'd seen, what she'd been through herself. And I thought, oh, the one thing I wanted to do was make sure they weren't affected. So we went through all the paths. She came through the therapy with me, obviously. I was dealing with my own problems, but having to prioritize hers, because hers mean more to me than my own.
Right, right.
But I couldn't then proactively help her because I weren't right myself. So you can't help someone, you can't help yourself. And
Yeah, yeah, that's
it was so
100%.
difficult because we were battling from the same person. We were with
Yeah,
the
the same
same
source
problem.
of like trauma,
Yeah.
really.
So when she was talking, it was triggering me. When I was crying, it was triggering her, and it was so difficult. And I was trying my best to keep the balance of keeping it away, and by doing that, I was drinking. You know, and it wasn't making the problem go away. It was just making it 2 times bigger the day after. But she's fine now. She's now, what is it? Will be March. She's now 14 months clean from self harm. She's not done it.
Beautiful.
So we're on the right path. We put her through counselling. They don't have contact with him. His rights were removed 2 years ago, so he's not allowed contact with them anymore. So they're now at home with me where they want to be. I've told them if they ever change their mind, we'd have to see what steps could be put in place. But right now, they want to be here with me. So they're both going to school. They're both getting better. We still have down days, obviously, because it's tough for a child, but
Sure.
we get through it. And I'm very open and honest with them, and I've told them all about my mum, and I've told them about how I reacted, and I'm very, very, very honest with them, and I let them see. Like, I protect them as well. I don't tell them everything, but
Right.
I'm as truthful as I can be. To the point where they know they can tell me anything, and I've got a very good relationship with both of them. And my husband is outstanding. He's took them on as his own, and now they can see how a woman is supposed to be treated and how a man should
Right.
behave, because they've never seen that before. So yeah, things are positive. We're on the right track, and I was inspired by my daughter going clean of self harm to go sober. So we've
Yeah,
done it
that's
together.
huge.
We've done it together, and it's been difficult, and it has been difficult, but we've come through it, and we're probably stronger now than we was. So yeah, it's out of the bad, it's become good. So I'm grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I always remind myself of that too, even when things get pretty crappy, start to feel
Yeah,
bad. You got to look at your kids and really realize how grateful you are. And,
yeah,
daughters are incredibly lucky to have such a strong mother in their life that
yeah,
is relatable to them.
yeah,
You're now able to share a traumatic experience with them, but come out on the other side of it together. And that's going
yeah.
to be
That's it.
more powerful than anything.
Yeah, it's huge. And at one point, I was so scared that like I wasn't gonna make it due to the three things I said before, like either at the hands of him, the hands of myself, or down to the bottle. I was gonna, I wasn't gonna pull out the other side, but I'm here. I'm grateful, and I've got everything now that I've got all the tools now to focus on moving forward, and I'll never ever be that person again. Never. I'm on the other side of it now, and I intend on staying here.
Yeah, like I said, your story just brings so much value and talks about things that need to be talked about. So
Yeah,
I really, really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story with us and being vulnerable, because that's what it's all about. Hard to speak the truth of what we've gone through and what we've dealt with, but if we don't, who knows if we'll ever be able to fully get over it.
that's
Like
it.
talking about it too is therapeutic. And we're
Yeah,
able to, get some type of release from telling our story, knowing again, if one person resonates, great. That makes it all worth it right there. I don't need the entire world to hear it and listen and love it. It's just if it
yeah.
gets through
Just
to
has to
one
hit the right
person.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much again for coming on here, sharing your story. It's huge. I love having people on that come from all different walks of life. I could honestly just listen to you talk all day. So,
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity, though. I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. And for everyone interested in learning a little bit more about you, where can they find you on social media?
So I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and it's the Healing Diaries with Sammy, and the podcast is the Healing Diaries on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. Really enjoy talking to you, and hopefully we can connect again. And this isn't the last of hearing your story and how far you've come. Absolutely
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. Thank you very much, and I'm hoping to speak to you again very soon.
Yes, yes, how we always end these. We're not going to push that panic button. We're going to figure it out. Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you. Bye.